401k.
401k. Is it a smart choice to use it for a down payment?
Should we use it for a down payment? Is it the right choice? And really, what are the positives and negatives of that decision? Where can you tap into it? Is that even a possibility if you want to?
This may be a little bit of sensitive topic for people, especially in the economic times that we're experiencing. A lot of people are saying this is the silent depression, where homes and rent and inflation and all of that.
With a little health and a little wealth and a lot of love, that's a life that we live. Suits and scrubs.
Hi, friends and family.
Hello.
Who are probably the only one watching this podcast right now.
That's all right. We got to start somewhere.
This is another episode of Suits and Scrubs, where we talk about a little bit of health.
A little bit of wealth.
With a whole lot of love.
Woo!
So I am going to start off by introducing my co-host today, who is looking very dapper, I have to say.
Well, I will, can I tell the people why I'm dressed like this? All right, I'm dressed like this, guys, because there is going to be math today.
Yes.
I literally put equations and, I had the glasses on. If you are listening on our podcast, go to our YouTube channel. And I'm held together by 2 safety pins because 20 pounds over the holidays. Yeah. I lost 15 pounds this month or last month, though. But yeah, I'm put together by some safety pins. Otherwise, if you are watching on the YouTube channel, I strategically place my microphone in front of the buttons. That way you can't see my Baby Gap shirt. But I love the shirt, so I'm wearing it, whatever.
I mean, I think a lot of people can relate that there are some extra pounds after the holidays, which we can talk about more on a health episode.
Which is our next one.
Yeah, that's true.
It is our next one.
That wasn't even intentional.
I know.
But you're dressed for math. You're dressed for statistics today.
I am.
So, Mr. Zachary SVP, as we like to refer to him.
That's me.
Is highly qualified for this job to talk about all things wealth.
You say I'm highly qualified for every job.
I mean, am I right or am I right?
Well,
I might
I've
be a
learned,
little bit partial, but
happy wife, happy life. Even that's very hard for me. So yes, you are right. Right, you're double right.
Well, over 2 years married, and we're still figuring it out. But
It's just like you all are. Marriage is hard.
yes, it is. But I would like to give a little bit of his background in case you haven't seen any of our prior episodes. If you'd like to know his credentials. So Mr. Zachary SVP has worked in finance for many years. He has managed over $1 billion to date in his career, but he has also reached his Coast-Fire number, and he did that, I believe, 2 years ago.
That's right.
And if you don't know what Coast-Fire is, then watch one of our prior podcasts.
That's right. That's our first 2 episodes that we put out there. So yes, fire movement. Let's go.
So I will just go ahead and give it to you.
Yeah.
My wonderful co-host.
Yeah,
Take
absolutely.
it away.
Thanks, Em. So that's Emily, MD. She is double board certified in internal and obesity medicine. In fact, I believe the diploma is on our counter.
It is. I just got my obesity medicine diploma.
That's
It's
awesome,
official.
babe. Congratulations. I know I said that before. It's only official until you get the paper, right?
Yeah.
I feel that way.
Maybe. In that do not bend.
Do not bend. It's a big orange that says do not bend.
That's when you know it's something important.
Exactly. So double board certified. And then also she has very strong interest in her functional medicine as well as her aesthetics. And so if you just take a moment, I know we talk about this in a second, but usually people who are drawn to functional medicine, we had this conversation earlier today, but for our listeners, what's the first things that you've learned? And by the way, these functional medicine courses are not cheap. They're like $2,000. Yes, I'm going to say it. I don't give a shit.
You're the finance guy.
Yes.
He's got his math.
You know what I mean?
Outfit on.
No,
so
they're
he's gonna talk the
$2,000
numbers.
per course, and it's like, I don't know, 5, 10 of them or something. So it adds up. But we're doing this to help you guys and to learn. But also, Emily doesn't want to go back to traditional medicine, so that's hard. But yeah, didn't you say something earlier about that?
I think it's a different way of approaching medicine. It's a different way of thinking. So I think a lot of people are kind of fed up with and on both sides, I think both the doctors and the patients are fed up with modern medicine right now. And and I'm not knocking. I mean, there have been so many advancements, and I think modern medicine has saved a lot of lives. I just think that there needs to be a little bit of something extra.
Yeah.
To really get to the root of what is taking our health down the drains.
Yeah,
you know,
I
really
agree.
I really feel like it's moving in the wrong direction in
I
a lot
agree.
of areas. Maybe not in some. I think we've made a lot of advancements in some areas, but more in the metabolic health and obesity, obviously. So I think functional medicine, honestly, is the answer to that, or at least this hybrid that I would like to practice. It's a part of traditional and functional medicine.
Yeah,
So
that's right. And
I'm
you guys-
excited about it. I'm passionate about it.
Yeah, so am I. And I think one thing to draw, like everyone listening out there, husband and wife, right? Everyone knows that. But there are specific interests that really draws you to somebody. And what drew me to Emily, first of all, she's smoking fucking hot. If you're not watching, yes, I'm dropping F-bombs tonight. If you're not watching on our YouTube channel, you can actually see her on our YouTube channel. Just an absolute classic beauty. In fact, her lips are absolutely real. So if there's questions about that, they're absolutely real. Anyway, I forgot where I was going with that. But
You got distracted.
I did get distracted. I was looking at her lips. Damn it. Where was I going with
We
that?
were talking about functional medicine.
Functional medicine. Functional medicine. I don't know how I was going with that.
This is not a health episode, so
This is not a health episode. You're right. You're right. Oh, so anyway, so introducing Emily MD. So one of the interesting facts about her is if you are watching on actually you can't see our shoes. We actually have pretty fancy shoes. Emily's wearing heels, and she never flippin' wear heels.
I don't.
Why? I think they're sexy, but is that a sexist comment? I don't know.
I am clumsy as the day is long.
Oh man.
My sister and family refer to me walking in heels as walking like a wounded giraffe. I'm not good at it, but I'm working on it. I feel like
You're working on it, really?
Working on
In fact, when we walked into our podcast studio in her home, she took her shoes off. So the only time you see them is in this episode. So if you are listening, make sure you go to our YouTube channel, Suits and Scrubs Podcast. Anyway, that's enough on that. Back to you, Em.
So I guess we can start talking about what we've already kind of been talking about, our personal lives, but we always like to give you guys a little bit of a backstory on bigger things that we've been going through, I guess. So we've talked about our IVF journey over the last couple of episodes.
We have.
And we've kind of pigeonholed it a little bit to like my side of the story a little bit, like my experience with hormones, and there are a lot of appointments and lab work and everything involved, but I would like to kind of go to the male's perspective. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience in this journey?
Yes. So fellas, if you are listening, you're going through IVF. And remember, we're doing IVF for insurance purposes. We went into this in great lengths in our first episode or two. So Emily's mom actually hit menopause at her age now. So we want to do this as insurance, so that way we kind of remove this stress. It's not cheap, though. We'll talk about that maybe next episode, the financial aspects of it. Just remind me.
Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, because
good
I think
idea.
it's not cheap, and we're very blessed, but people could say we're privileged, but we are. We've worked really hard to ascertain a certain level of financial
You talk
prosperity.
about that too. I mean, that's part of working in a professional job is that a lot of times you put off family.
That's right.
And that
That's
was
right.
part of our problem, is that I think there's so much delayed gratification in
right.
both your field and mine that
Yeah.
now we found ourselves in our mid to late 30s and we haven't started our family yet. And
Well, I have a slight disagreement. Actually, I don't have delayed delayed gratification. I just married. Well, I was married twice. I'm not gonna talk bad, but I just was married. This is my second marriage. First one was a trial. We take the training wheels off, and so now we're in this. No harm. If you are listening, shout out to you. You put God in my life, so I'm very thankful for that. Anyway, on a tangent, but let's talk about so the male perspective. So fellas, so the first time I went there, actually I got an email, and it details out very specifically. So, guys, if you need a little extra visual stimulation, I will call it, they don't provide magazines. It's not like the movies you watch growing up. They're not some hot nurse where she puts the gloves on and, you know, she helps, you know, I don't know if you guys seen that with Stifler. And anyway,
This isn't Road Trip, honey.
was it Road Trip? Anyway, so I guess it was Road Trip. And so they tell you have to download if you need visual stimulation. And when you walk in there, I've done it twice because you have to test it first. And then the second time, you know, this is something you've been doing since, I don't know about you guys, but I've been doing it since like 6th grade, 7th grade, you know, and I don't know about y'all, but when it's unspontaneous like this, you know, you have this chair with a piece of paper on there. You have to write your name, and it's like, you must wash your hands before you touch yourself. I'm like, oh my gosh. And there's specific rules. And then the nurse is super nice, and she's looking at you, and she's like, I know what you're about to do. Anyway, so all these things are going on. And actually, the nurse did make, I made a comment to the nurse. If you guys know me, this is just my personality. She said, you have to write your name. I said, why have to write my name? She says, well, we don't want to mix yours with somebody else's, you know? And I said, only be so lucky. And I said that because I am 6'5", 6'6", and she's kicking me. She's kicking me because
so humble,
super humble. But you know what? F it. This is who we are. This is who I am. You're gonna see more of who we are. And if you don't like me, you're probably watching for her anyway. But yeah, so, and once you do your business, you know, you got to do your thing. And, you know, you have to I'm not a very athletic person, even though I look like it.
There's athletics involved in
There's
this?
athletics involved. And let me tell you why. Because once you know, you have your moment.
You have to have good hand-eye coordination.
You
I
do.
guess.
And the first time I did great. You know, I got all up in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's like a little message. It's just like, well, did you miss any? And I'm like, yeah. And it's like, beginning, middle, or end. I'm like, damn, like this is like personal.
Specific.
It is it's specific. And you know, in this moment, the second time I did it, you know, I got a little spunk on my hand, but I just scraped that on up in the cup. You know what I mean? And I did. And I'm like, well, I think I missed the beginning, but if you scrape it up in the cup, like, doesn't matter. And you're only allowed a specific amount of like lubrication, you know? Oh my gosh, health and wealth episode.
So we're getting to the specifics.
I'm going to be very specific and very honest and very real. My favorite part, though, is every single time I did it, I got my choice of Ninja Turtle stickers.
I'm sure you're very happy about that.
Not only Ninja Turtle stickers, but my time Ninja Turtle stickers. I'm not talking about this new age thing with Megan Fox in there or the other. I'm talking about like 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and with Donatello, like that version. And I got them both times. I filled my pockets with every single one of those Ninja Turtles. So I have to say it was pretty traumatic. And then, you know, there was a reward at the end. Well, more than just one reward, if you know what I mean.
Thank you for sharing your experience.
You asked.
I'm regretting that decision a little bit now.
Yeah. And guys, if you're not watching us on YouTube, you missed her. She's mortified.
So we have, I think, finished that backstory conversation.
Until next time. Nut and cup.
Tune in.
That was my nut and cup story.
You will never know what we'll talk about next. So we can get into the meat of today's conversation. So we are talking about 401k.
401k.
And should we use it for a down payment? Is that a smart choice?
Is it a smart choice?
And you are going to be telling us more about that. So I know that we've talked about this in prior episodes about how I am completely financially illiterate, and many in my line of work probably feel the same.
That's right. And she's lucky that she has me, just because I'm illiterate in wealth, health.
We balance each other out.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people think about this, and it might not necessarily always be about down payment, but just the question of taking money out of your 401k.
Right.
And that can be an enticing idea or situation, but it can also be kind of a scary situation. So is it the right financial move to take money out of your 401k and put it into a down payment for your dream home? And then, how do you go about that? What are the implications? What are the implications in your retirement savings? Are there any hidden fees or hidden costs in that? What are the opportunity costs? Are you want to make sure that you're making the right decision by kind of breaking into this nest egg that you've created for yourself.
Yeah.
Is it the right choice? And really, what are the positives and negatives of that decision? So you are going to really get down to the specifics.
Y'all,
and obviously,
I'm getting down into the nitty gritty. I got math. If you're watching on my YouTube channel, like we do have a video editor now.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And so they're going to put this on the YouTube channel. So there's going to be a lot of numbers out there. If you're listening to us to work, if you're listening to us in the gym, it probably is better to listen on a YouTube channel for this specific episode. This is why I'm wearing my glasses, because again, I did a lot of calculations, and a lot of people let's be real. A lot of people talk about 401k, taking it out. Like it's a hot topic in the industry, but no one puts numbers to it. And opportunity cost.
Does the math?
Exactly. Does the math? In this episode, we are going to talk about very specific options and opportunities and opportunity costs. So it's our spin on this with real math, real numbers.
So let's start just with our
Bumfuzzle battle?
Yes, with our first segment.
Yes. Bumfuzzle battle! In this segment, we define the industry term or definition.
And the other co-host will have to guess what it is.
Well, you know what it is?
What is it? So give me the word. What am I guessing?
Define 401k.
Oh gosh, I know technically kind of what it means to me. A 401k is what your employer kind of guides you or helps you with retirement. So you decide to put a certain amount of money down, and your employer will match that amount of money by also contributing money sometimes. But I think there are also some tax benefits from that as well. I don't know if that was the best.
What do you guys think? I guarantee people are listening that are like, oh my God, this is what it is. I will give her ding ding. Right. You hit on a few things. So a 401k, very simply put, is a retirement account that's housed by your employer. There's other forms of this. So if you work for a nonprofit, I think there's 401(b), and there's other exotic retirement accounts, things of that nature.
What's exotic? What would you say is an exotic?
I always say, I say this term a lot. When I say exotic, that means non-mainstream, because everyone knows what a 401k is. Well, most everyone knows what a 401k is.
Or at least they've heard of it.
Exactly, they heard of it. But for like 401(b) and these other, it's the same thing. It's just a retirement account that's more specialized in that. And one thing you said, so 401k is after-tax dollars. And what happens when you withdraw from a 401k when you're of age? And of age is 59 and a half, but you have to...
Why 59 and a half? Why not 59 or 60?
I don't know.
Why 59 and a half?
If you are
quite specific.
If you are a policy or regulator, please let us know why it's in a half, but it's 59 and a half.
It's quite specific.
Yes. But one thing I have realized is as the population lives longer, it's longer and longer. In fact, I saw this whole Facebook thing.
59 3/4.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I saw this whole Facebook thing, like retirement age is going to be 76 in the near future, which honestly sucks. Like, could you imagine working to 76? Ugh. But you have to take minimum distributions by the time you're 72. If you don't take minimum distributions, you are taxed heavily. There's also other penalties.
What does that mean, minimum distributions?
They're called RMD, required minimum distributions. So I know what it means, but I don't know why. I can guess why, and so I am speculating when I say that. What that means is when you're 72, you're required by law to take those minimum distributions to supplement your income. This is my theory. My theory is because when you're that age, when you pass away, you honestly give to your heirs, like to your children and to your family, whoever, your friends, whoever your heirs are. Yeah. And it passes to them. And so what the government wants to do, if you do really, really well, if you have multiple income streams, multiple businesses, you can withdraw that, but it requires you to withdraw that at that age so you can start. Because the more money you have, the more compound interest you have. And when we withdraw those funds, then you are taxed.
Okay.
So that's why. So that's a little bit about a 401k. So I'm elaborating what you're saying. And do you want to know the history about a 401k?
Yeah, quite honestly, I'd like to know why is it even called a 401k? Why? Tell me a little bit more about
why is it called 401k?
The history.
I will give you the history. I also will tell you why it's called 401k. Let's start with why it's called 401k.
Okay.
And honestly, guys, this is so off topic, and this is probably not beneficial, but this is interesting for me. But the reason why it's called 401k, if you've ever done your taxes, I know you guys are TurboTax people or accountant. I say if you are a doctor listening, get an accountant. If you have real estate, get an accountant. If you have exotic investments like, you have your brokerage accounts, things like that are untraditional outside your 401k, get a tax account. If you are someone who just has a W-2, your wife has a W-2, your partner has a W-2, I'll be inclusive here. We're very inclusive on this show. You can do TurboTax. You absolutely can do TurboTax. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm digressing. So 401k it's just an acknowledgement on the form. It's a number associated with, if you ever talk to an IRS or IRS nerd, they get really turned on about, 401 this, 5A, 2A, withholdings, not withholdings. It's just a number on a sheet. That's it. And the K bears absolutely no significance whatsoever. It's just the next letter that was there. So, for example, when we're doing Suits and Scrubs, we talk to a trademark attorney. And the trademark attorney, there's like 45 different classes of trademarks, which is absolutely so daunting. If you are interested in trademark, you should absolutely go to a trademark attorney. And the trademark that we're looking for is like 23 something, but that number is associated with that specific amount. Same thing with tax, like 401k, same thing. So yeah, that's a little bit about the name.
So basically, it doesn't really come from any specific.
No, it'd be so much cooler if it did. It'd be like 401 or something. I don't know. It would be fun. But I will say the history about a 401k. Do you want to know about that?
Yeah. So I don't know, like when they first
first
started, or what.
It's important because it helps you understand like where things come from. Do you think our listeners want to know?
Just out of curiosity, maybe.
Listeners, do you want to know?
Maybe.
Okay, I'm giving some bait here. Okay, so the history of 401ks, I think it's really fascinating. So there's this car corporation back in 1950. I believe it's called Studemeyer. Anyway, it was a corporation that were very specific to automotive. And they were in such financial hardship that they suspended the pension, which can happen, by the way, which draws so much national attention, and the press had a field day with this, that it put so much financial burden on the employees, and it didn't allow them to have enough to retire. I mean, could you imagine working for a company back in the day, you do your hardest, and then your pension is taken from you after seeing your company grow that? Like, pensions don't really exist anymore unless you're very, like firefighters, I think, still get them.
Yeah, so basically, if your pension is something that you maybe look forward to, maybe kind of like Social Security, like it's something
kind of like Social Security, but
something that you
backed by an employer.
Yeah, so they pay into it maybe.
That's right.
For something after you retire.
Exactly.
When you get past the point where you can't work anymore, then they will still offer money to you.
Yeah, and when I worked at Bank of America, I can say this. I had a pension. You know, they still offer pensions, which is like unheard of. And this wasn't that long ago, like 15, 20 years. Like they're nowhere anymore because it's very expensive. That's why employers kind of do away with them. But so that happened in 1950. And so there was an act in 1978 that ensured protection around a 401k that were employee sponsored, employer offered. And so if you know a little history about the United States, you can look at the Social Security when that was born. That was government induced because they wanted to ensure Americans could save for retirement. So in 1978, they had more protection around 401k. So 401k ultimately can go with you no matter what job you go to. And they added different classes of protection. So deferred compensation, which I strongly recommend to anyone who is financial independent, who are in their golden years or olden years, I would call it. That's an opportunity for them to put that money into that 401k, deferred compensation. So that legislation helped with that. And the tax reform in 1986, which is the year that I was born, added further protections to 401k. So I just kind of walked through the history of when it was in the inception, all the way down, why it was there, so on and so forth. So if people are interested, it's just, I don't know, it's a fun fact. Like 401k, everyone knows what 401k is at this point.
Yeah, so it's a more proactive way of saving for retirement. So you're not worried about if the company goes belly up, then you've been putting something into this for a while.
Right.
It's not something that you have to wait for.
Right. Well, I will say this: there are risks involved, just like any other investments. And this is totally off topic. And I'll talk about this probably in a future episode. But if you put money in deferred compensation and your company goes belly up, there is an association with that, and so you could ultimately lose your funds. It just depends on the specific company, the eligibility. Everything is different. But we can talk about that in a future episode. So
you talked about kind of what a 401k is, and I guess the next question is, because our main...
Should we do our under the microscope? Because it's so relevant to the statistics.
I guess, okay, so let's go to our next segment.
Whoop, whoop. And guys, we're still...
Mind and money matters. In this segment, we'll be exploring psychological aspects
of financial and health choices.
And again, we talked about this earlier. Like, me and Emily are drawn to each other because I think that we love to learn, and we're big stats people.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't want to just talk about something. I want people to like understand, like, around the
especially
statistics.
the impressive ones. Ones.
And 401k, I can't think of anything better. So here's some stats about 401k since we are doing our Mind Matters segment. Mind and Money Matters. So in 2023, there's over 36% of people withdrawing from their 401k going on right now. A study published by Harvard Business, this is really interesting. By 2014 and 2016, over 41% of those withdrew from their 401k when they left their jobs. Of that 41%, 85% completely depleted their 401k. And this is an interesting topic or interesting fact because it's very on brand for this episode. Only 2.5% people are borrowing from their 401k, which we'll talk about in just a second. And our episode is 401k. Is it a smart choice to use it for a down payment? There's some stats.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we talk about delayed gratification a lot.
We do.
And this is the perfect example of that. Like, do you take from, obviously, if you're putting money into retirement, you are saving for the future.
Right.
But if you're wanting to buy that dream home,
right,
you know, that's the other.
Yeah, absolutely. So we told you a little bit about a 401k. That's a little groundwork about the 401k.
So can you use your 401k Or can you tap into it? Is that even a possibility if you want to put a down payment on a house?
It is. And so this may be a little bit of sensitive topic for people, especially in the economic times that we're experiencing. A lot of people are saying this is the silent depression, where homes and rent and inflation and all of that. And so I say this before I go into that. This is not going to be a doomsday episode, guys, because you guys get enough of that. You're not tuning in into us to be doomsday, right? I don't want that, right? I will say that it is an opportunity. If you can think differently and act differently, you can actually be on the better side of this. And so that does take some time and some effort, but I do believe anybody can be financially independent. I do. In fact, if you want to know more about financial independence, go to our podcast, suitsandscrubspodcast.com. I have a method called the GIFT method. I'm on which is Initiate Financial Foundations. So understanding these terms and how they apply to you. There's really cool information. Like there's a staircase of financial independence. So for example, should you save for your 401k, or should you have an emergency fund? Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it gives you a step-by-step method.
It does.
On what you should be doing.
And the first step I tell you, I'm a big believer in Dave Ramsey, and other methodologies out there. I accelerated his plan because I felt like I could do it better, and I did. The first thing you do is emergency funds. So going back to Mind and Money Matters, if you have a solid emergency fund, you don't have to draw from your 401k, guys.
That's true.
You don't have to draw. And you shouldn't use your emergency fund for down payment of a home.
So it doesn't even become a question
Exactly.
if you have an emergency fund.
Exactly. And it's hard. Like, I know, like, for example, my cousin, he does Uber and Lyft. It's hard in these streets. And he's doing that to provide for his family. I'm not suggesting that. But if there's things that I've done, when I owned my own company and I went and worked at a bank 20 hours when it was back in 2008, the worst financial crisis. And then I picked up a waiter job, Yeah. I did what I needed to do. But yes, so to answer your question, I went on a tangent, my bad, but I'm passionate about this topic, if you can tell. You can tap into your 401k. There's very specific rules of your 401k, and every 401k is different. Don't send your HR department this video or this short. You have to do your independent research, right? So the first thing you got to understand is their eligibility. Can you do this? And there's very specific methods of doing this. And I'll be honest, before we developed this episode, I was strongly against this. But now I'm a little bit impartial to a few things you can do, which again, if you talk to financial advisors and other financial enthusiasts, they probably will violently disagree with me. But guess what? I had the paper in front of me that we'll talk about in just a second. All right, so you can tap into your 401k. There's very specific things that you can do. No matter what scenario that you have, you are subject to the income tax. So whatever your tax bracket is, let's say you're 25%. If you withdraw a certain amount of money, you have to pay taxes on that. And so there's different paths that you can take. So path one is, let's say that there's a disability or hardship. Mm-hmm. You have to pay. Which can
happen.
Which, yeah, it absolutely can happen.
Easily.
Absolutely. But you also have to pay a 10% penalty in addition to your income tax.
So what about, and I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but what about at least, and this might be an ignorant question, but like state income tax? What about in states that don't have income tax? Is it still the same? Is it more of a federal?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think all plans are different, and whatever you reside at, I have to do some more research on that. I don't know if it's at the federal level or I think it is at the federal level, to be honest. So when you are taxed, it's at your specific income bracket, which I do know that. And then if you take withdrawals from your 401k, it's an additional 10%. So let's say you are 25%, it's 35% to you to tap into that money unless it's approved. You can waive the 10% penalty, but you have to have a lot of documentation. And again, this is not a doomsday episode, but just giving you some examples, like foreclosure notices, things of that nature. So the answer to your question is, yeah, you can tap into it, but you have to go through the different process. And I can talk about the process in a second, but I want to make sure I answer any questions that you may have.
Yeah, so give us an example of maybe, and you might not be able to really give specifics. Obviously, everybody's situation is different, but kind of give us an example of maybe what might lead up to someone wanting to even do this or making this decision.
So guys, you may not have a choice. There's financial hardships out there. I hate to say this word. In fact, we almost headed there today because we absolutely had a tumultuous fight earlier. There were doors slammed and stomped and F-bombs dropped, not from me. But, that's marriage. Such is life, right? Anyway, so if you have a divorce, your partner is entitled to take that money from your 401k, which you would not be subject to that 10%. There could or could not be specific taxes associated with that. Because remember, guys, this is made after tax dollars. So when you withdraw from these accounts, you have to pay taxes at that current structure that you're currently in. So those are some specific examples. I think medical bills. If you have a disability, let's just say that you got hurt on a job and you have a very strong case for disability, then you can waive that 10%. You still have to pay taxes, which is, I know it sounds awful, but it's not me. Don't send hate mail to me. That's just
Don't kill the messenger.
Right. That's just how it works today.
So what's the real financial impact if you decide to make this decision and pull from your 401k? What's the impact on your retirement?
So the title of this episode, 401k down payment, and it's for a house. Is it a smart decision? So I am going to talk about some stats and some options here. So this is where our video editor, if you are listening and you are looking in YouTube, now podcasts, it might be a little hard to follow, and I may be looking down on the YouTube, but hopefully my face won't be shown. So I put together 3 options. What is the impact? So let's use some assumptions. The average house cost in America is $350,000. Okay, so I know this is just average scenario, guys. Like in Charlotte, it is well north of that. Other places in the United States, it may be way below that. But the average house is $350,000. I'm a big fan of a FHA loan, which is a Federal Housing Association loan. I think I said that right. You can put only 3.5% down. So if you are listening to this, I think real estate is one of the best places to actually ascertain wealth. You know this because you're married to me, but there's a lot of options we have on our table. And a lot of the wealth building that we have is through
Real estate.
So
that's for another episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll talk about that. So of the $350,000 of your home, if it's 3.5%, you have to put $12,250 down. That's that 3.5%. And so let's look at an investment scenario of 6.5%, which I believe is a little bit on the higher side. So for example, our portfolio is 10% plus every year. So if you put $100,000 in, you invest in the stock market, you invest what your 401k allows.
You're saying that's your kind of rate of return?
Rate of return,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, good. So let's just say 6.5%.
Okay.
And then, so let's look at a few options. There's 3 options here. And I'm going to slow this down. If this doesn't make sense to you, slow it down because...
I was going to say, we're talking lots of math and statistics.
We're going to talk math today, guys. Yes.
So
if you get off on that, great. If you don't, you need to listen to it because you probably need it more than anybody else.
So give us the specifics and then we can kind of simplify it afterwards.
Yeah. So those are the assumptions. So $350,000 for a house, 3.5% for FHA. We're talking about taking $12,250 from your 401k. That's how it applies to this episode. And let's say the opportunity cost is 6.5% of your investment. So option 1 is withdrawal.
Okay.
Okay. What do you think withdrawal means?
Just taking the cash or the money out of your 401k?
Exactly.
Okay.
Nuts.
Fast
Nuts,
learner.
Emily MD. Nuts. All right. Yep. All right. So if you withdraw $12,250 from your 401k,
okay.
Let's say that you have an income tax of 25%. Okay. So let's just say that's not where we're at, but let's just say an average scenario.
Yeah.
You also have to pay what? I said this earlier.
I can't remember.
Penalty. What's the penalty? 10% penalty.
On top of
remember, when you withdraw from your 401k, you always have to pay a 10% penalty.
Okay.
Not always, but there's some exceptions. Like, for example, if you're deceased or if you're through a divorce, if you're disability, if you have hardship or foreclosure, you don't have to pay that 10%. But we're only focusing on this part of the 401k. I could talk about this when there are 2 hours about 401ks, but we're only talking about this from a house payment, right? So
Okay.
you pay what? What's the penalty?
The 10% penalty.
Exactly. So what's our income rate in this scenario?
You said 25%.
Right.
So you're paying 35%?
Bingo. That's right. That's right.
Okay.
So if I take 12,250, which is 3.5% of the normal house, what do you think my cost is altogether to take money out of my 401k?
I don't know specifics.
Right.
But yeah.
So you
I need a calculator.
yeah, exactly. So it's 35%. So 35%, it's going to cost you $4,387.50.
So on top of what you're already putting down on the down payment, this is just
We're assuming that you're taking the down payment from your 401k.
yes. So that's
which
just
is 12,000.
just to take it out of your.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
All right. So how much is it costing you? So $12,250 plus the $4,300.
So over 16,000.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's cost you $4,000 to access these funds. Withdrawal. Okay, that's option one.
Okay.
That's all the hidden costs. These are real numbers, guys. This is a real scenario.
Yeah.
Okay. Option two, loan. You can
Which is
take,
kind of traditionally what people decide to do, correct?
if you remember Mind and Money Matters, 2.5% take advantage of loans against their 401k.
Okay.
2.5%.
Yeah.
36% of people take money from their 401k. They withdraw it.
Okay.
So they're subject to that 10% penalty and their income tax level. Was that 25% in this episode? Make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So loan. So now you have to make sure all this is eligible. So some of your employers may not be eligible. So what you do is you got to reach out to your HR department. You got to reach out to your loan administration, and you have to talk to them to see if you're eligible. That's the step one, right? So I'm looking at my paper here. Now, when you take a loan, there could be an origination fee. Do you know what an origination fee is?
No.
Okay, well, you bought this house
Okay.
in your name, and you had a mortgage officer, and you like the mortgage officer, like Russ, for example. If Russ, if you're listening, shout out to you.
Yeah.
How does Russ get compensated? It's a percentage of a loan. It's his fee to originate the loan. He gets all the paperwork. He does the syndication. He does the validation. It's a whole process there.
Yeah.
It's usually 1%. What's 1% of 12,250? You don't have to do this. I've already done it. It's $122.50. So it's not free. So there's usually like 1%, and then what's interesting about getting a loan for your 401k, you are charged interest. It's a loan, right? But you're borrowing against yourself.
Okay.
Who does that interest go to, do you think?
The government?
No. It's a good guess.
I don't know.
Relax.
Your employer?
No, yourself. So recap that for me.
Oh gosh. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit lost in the weeds.
We lost about. So you're borrowing $12,250 for $350,000. This is our second scenario.
Okay.
And you have a loan origination.
And this is a loan. This is not the same thing as a
Withdrawal.
getting a mortgage loan. This is a loan against your
401k.
401k.
Yes,
Okay.
that's right.
So it's a different product altogether.
Yes, essentially yes.
Okay, so you're paying the loan officer.
But I was using that example not to confuse you. That you're paying the loan officer for this, but you're borrowing against your 401k. Let's just focus on your 401k.
Okay.
So you're borrowing from your 401k. It's 1% usually. So you have to pay interest on a loan. That resonates with you, right?
Yes.
And you're borrowing from
course.
your 401k, right? So what does that mean?
So you're paying interest on money you've already saved?
Yes, that you're getting warmer. But where does the interest go?
You're basically loaning money to yourself?
And you have to
And
pay
you're paying
interest,
interest on it.
Right. But where does that interest go?
I don't know. Where does that interest go?
It goes to yourself. So you have to borrow. So check this out. So you borrow.
That's so confusing.
No, it's not confusing. It's
To
not
me,
confusing.
it is.
It's not confusing. So you borrow against your 401k.
Okay.
And you pay interest. You pay that interest to yourself. And then in this example, let's say the interest for 5 years, which usually is 5 years that you have to pay it back. That's why probably people don't do loan, because you do have to pay it back. You have to pay yourself back.
Yeah.
And that one, let's say it's $1,000, you pay yourself interest on that. And usually it's prime rate, which you probably don't know what prime rate is. It's what the rate is right now. And it's 1% higher than that. So you're paying that. But the good news is, guys, you're paying to yourself.
To yourself. So it's
Exactly.
not like you're just wasting money.
Well, I don't want to get into that, but you're on the right track.
Okay.
So you borrow against your 401k.
You're at least not paying interest to another entity.
There you go.
Gotcha.
You're
okay.
getting it. You trucking?
I'm
Trucking. No, guys, this is probably my favorite.
I'm picking up what you're
Are
putting
you putting
down.
that? Yeah, this is
Okay.
probably my favorite episode because this is real numbers, and I know people who've done this. And remember, we're practitioners, so what we talk about on these episodes,
Yeah.
we'll tell you if we're not, but we're a practitioner in this example. So let's say the interest is $1,000, and then you pay the origination, which is $122.50. So in net, you pay $1,122.50 plus the $12,250 you loan against your 401k.
Okay.
Okay. So that's roughly about 13,000 or whatever. So option one, just to remind you, it was 16,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So option three, I'm a big fan of this. It's called opportunity cost. What's opportunity cost?
So you're spending money in one area, but you're taking that money from something else.
Yeah, I like it, but just to punch that home, when you take $12,250 out of your 401k to put down on a home, you're missing out on an opportunity. What's the opportunity?
The interest?
Exactly. The compound that you can get from your investments within the 401k. You're trucking?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Like my thing is all right, guys. I'm putting Emily in the spot on purpose because this is not hard. This is just terminology and math that turns people off and people may be intimidated by it. It's not that hard. And we're going to go through this again and summarize this because this is powerful, I think. Yeah. So based upon that, let's say that, remember the 6.5%, would you say earlier? Rate of
return?
Right. The 6.5% rate of return. You're familiar with this because we broke down your shit.
Yeah.
All right, 12,250. Your 6.5% in 5 years, you can gain $3,360. So that's your opportunity cost.
Yeah.
In 5 years. In 10 years, it's 8,000. This 12,000 will be 15 in 5 years. This 12,000 will be 20 in 10 years.
Yeah. So that money that you took away to put on a down payment on a house could have earned you more money
Exactly.
over the long run, just
Exactly.
sitting there in your 401k.
Exactly. But wait, there's more. But
Okay.
But
Yeah.
think about this. You have to look at this all angles. How much is rent? The average
Depends
house
on where you are.
Exactly. But the average household for rent is $1,500 to $2,000, right?
Gosh, especially now, yeah.
Exactly. And here in Charlotte, it's way more than that. But I'm trying to be conservative. I'm trying to be honest and real with our numbers. This is 2-bedroom, two bath. And you're probably like, where's a house that's $1,500? Guys, just bear with me. This is the average scenario. $350,000 is probably not an average scenario where you live in your house, especially if you're in California, in Charlotte. So let's say that some assumptions here too, and you have to weigh this all out. You ready? So now that you have the foundations here, you have option one, option two, which is withdrawal and loan. And then you have the opportunity cost of missing out of that money. But let's say you just do it and you put money in that house. Real estate on average, 2% to 8% every single year. Unless you're, a recession, it could happen.
Yeah. We
So
know you're a big proponent of real estate investment.
Right. I am. And so you have to look at it from all angles. So let's say I pull money out of my 401k, but then I put it down payment on a house or do a loan withdrawal, whatever. We'll get into that in just a second. And then I appreciate in 5-10 years the 2 to 8%. So there's an opportunity cost because then if I'm rent, I don't get equity, right?
Yeah.
There is a
Just throwing away money by renting.
I agree. There's $3,176.63 that you are missing out. Opportunity cost of renting versus owning equity in 5 years, based on that 2% and 8%. And arguably, and we'll talk about this maybe in another episode, but how does interest work and how's your principal? You pay all the interest usually up front. If you look at your student loans, you pay let's say your payment is $1,600. $1,400 is probably the interest, and the $400 is the principal. They do that because it's risk for them, right? So there's other ways to look at this, but I'm trying to simplify this. So, what's the title of the episode?
So, taking money from your 401k, is it the right choice?
Is it the right choice?
So after all of that, the minutia, the details, the statistics, break it down for us a little bit and tell us, what do you recommend?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Obviously, that was a lot of information.
It was.
There's a lot of information for me as someone who doesn't have a finance background.
That's right.
So break it down for us. What does that mean?
All right, remember the 3 options we put out there? The first option was what?
Was just taking out the cash from the 401k.
And so taking out the cash of the 401k to put down payment is $12,250, which you talked about. It costs you $4,300 to take that money out. Tax at 25% and the 10% penalty. Taking a loan only costs you $1,122.50. However, the opportunity cost of the equity, if it increases 2 to 8%, is $3,176. I never thought in my wildest dreams that I ever would recommend this. I do think in some situations, ding, 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 it actually is not a bad decision. If you take a loan out on your 401k, you're paying yourself interest. Yes, you can miss out on the $3,000 in 5 years and $8,000 in 10 years because there is compound interest. It all is all based on your specific situation. And, and you can't, don't do it from a psychology perspective, but sit down and do these numbers to make sure it makes sense to you. So I do think it's not a bad idea to explore this option if you take a loan out. Remember, 2.5% of Americans are taking loans out of the 401k. Majority of them are just withdrawing the money.
Just the cash, yeah.
I do not recommend withdrawing the money. I just don't, because you pay $4,000 to get $12,000. What is that? 30% of that's 35% of your cost that you're pulling out.
Yeah. So
you don't want to do that.
Do you have any other guidance on maybe how to minimize what's the financial impact on your retirement?
Yeah, I do actually. So I honestly think that if your back's against the wall, and I will say in Charlotte, I didn't talk about this. So there are limitations. So whichever is less, it's $50,000 or a certain percentage based upon your portfolio. So you have $400,000 in your 401k, you can't take $200,000 put it on the house. There are exceptions here, right? So you have to manage through that exception and understand what your plan offers. A lot of people don't know that, but that's something that you can't take more than $50,000 out. That's pretty standard. My recommendation is, in an environment that we were in about 2, 3, 4 years ago in COVID, 4 years ago at this point, interest rates were 2.5%. There were houses everywhere. And let's say I don't have enough money for the down payment. If I would have took a loan out on my loan and put money down on this house, it would have been a perfect scenario if I didn't have the money, because the opportunity costs, this place has appreciated over 300,000 plus. This is not normal, but by the way, you have to know your local market. So again, don't send, I'm going to send a clip to somebody. No. You got to understand your local market.
But we're in a different economy now.
We are in a different economy. So interest rates are a little bit higher.
Yeah.
So you have to look at that. But I do think that taking a loan out against your 401k, there are all stipulations with this. You have to pay it back in 5 years. So let's say that you pay this back. If you are terminated from your job, usually in the stipulations in the 401k contract, you have to pay it back in full. So that's something to think about, guys. If you leave your job, same situation. But you have to understand your 401k plan. Your HR department, your administration should be able to help with that. So I'm not saying this is all risk free. So based upon the three options, I would say if you do it, do the loan route. Don't take the money out. It just costs too much. Just save $200-300 a month. And I'm only saying this if you're in this situation, do DoorDash, do Uber, wait tail, do something, but don't take it out of your 401k. And yes, you may have families, you may have things, but I'm a big fan of Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey says you have to live like no one else to be like no one else. And yes, it's a hard time right now, but it will get better. There's always a rainbow in the thunder. Thunder, rain, storm.
The rainstorm.
There it is. So yeah, that's what I recommend. So I do think that there are some stipulations, and all that.
Yeah. And it's always such an attractive idea. I think especially if you've worked for the same company for a while and you see that money there just sitting there.
Right.
But a lot of us who don't have that financial background don't really think about what the implications are. So I think
some people don't even know that you can borrow from your 401k.
Yeah.
That's my message to you guys. And the purpose of this podcast, number one, it's a recorded date night. We are having drinks. This is date night for us. We dress up. This is fun for us. But at the end of the day, it's asking the right questions and knowing your options. That's the purpose of what we do. That's why we're trying to do
and
this.
some of us don't. I will say I always hated statistics in medicine, and you have to learn it because you have to learn how to read peer reviews and know what the statistics mean and is it statistically significant. And to me, it's just like a headache. And so those things always are just so overwhelming to me.
Yeah.
And I feel incompetent a lot of times when I'm trying to make financial decisions. And so all of that can get so confusing. But when you break it down and you actually compare the specific, what the long-term loss is, what the long-term gain is, I think
Which is what word?
Opportunity cost.
Woo!
Then I think it really resonates. I do. I think it makes you think twice. It makes you. It's a hard world out there. And
right now,
yeah.
It
so
is.
I think it's
know your options, people.
Yeah, it's important to know your options.
Ask
so
the
that
questions.
You can have a happy life, but do it in the right way so you're not completely sabotaging your future.
That's right. That's retirement. That's right. And so
that's the whole point of this wealth part of the podcast.
That's right. That's the whole point. Absolutely. A lot of people don't know that they have that option. And you hear my recommendation. Don't pay 35% to take money from your 401k withdrawal. Please don't do that, people. That's taking $4,000 out the window and going, wow! Don't do it. No, don't do it. Don't do it. And, do anything else besides that. And you may not have an option. You may not have a choice. This is not, again, it's not a doomsday episode. We're not talking about disability or death or losing your job. We're not talking about that. We're talking about what to do in a situation to put a down payment on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts? Anything else? You've talked about a lot. Anything
I
else
did. I think hopefully the math was helpful for people and the options. I guess my final thought would be, if you guys have questions about this specifically, we have about 2 or 3 listeners at this point. In our website, ask us a question. Ask us. We are responding to all of it right now.
There are no dumb questions, because I feel like I ask a lot of them, but you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
The only dumb people are the ones that don't ask questions and make the wrong decision.
Are these some gems that you're dropping down? That's right. So guys, if you do look at TikTok, I guess I will say this. If you do look at TikTok, you do look at things, you're getting information, and a lot of people say 401k is a scam. No, it's not. Or if you see these investors, they say, take money out your 401k, we can do better. Oh, for real? So you're going to take a 10% penalty and then you're taxed at your specific income? And in this example, as an average scenario, 35%. Can that person really net you more than 35%? Probably the fuck not. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. So 401k is not a scam. You can tap into it for wealth building. I just gave you how. The loan. I think looking at the loan and looking at your external factors around location strategy, what's your projected growth for real estate in your specific market, the worst thing you can do is tap into it. And Zach said do a loan, which I did say do a loan. It's situational. But then I buy a house now, and then the housing market crashes, and then you lose equity. Not a very good decision. So those are kind of factors you have to play into and you have to consider. Single family homes, though, I will say, are always usually a great investment.
Good investment, yeah.
They are. Yeah.
Well, I am honestly spent from all of the math, but the math is mathing for me right now.
Yeah.
So I feel better equipped. I hope everybody else does at least making some decisions. But like Zach SVP said, if you have questions, if anything didn't make sense, make sure to post a comment, ask us all the questions, and next episode we will be talking about weight loss. We're doing a health episode on these crazy injectable medications, the magic bullet.
Do you know a little bit about this?
Or is it? I think I do.
And it's a Ozempic butt and a Ozempic face.
Is that a real thing?
It is a real thing. What is that?
Or is it not?
What is it?
Tune in
Next time.
next time, and we will tell you.
A little bit of health.
A little bit of wealth.
And a lot of love. Bye, guys.
He's on the hustle, she's on the grind. There's no time to kill. We're saving lives and new deadlines, and there's some holes to fill. With a little health and a little wealth and a lot of love. That's the life that we live. Suits and scrubs.